We've all had those moments where we're watching a movie, whether great or not so great, and thought, why the hell did the filmmakers do that? Why did they make that choice? Whatever the reason, these 10 irritating and highly questionable movie moments all have explanations which lend crucial context to their existence. So let's dive in, as I'm Adam from Whatculture, and here are 10 real reasons behind annoying movie moments.
Want to stay safe online and save big? Get up to 76% off a 2-year NordVPN plan, plus 4 months free and up to a $50 Amazon gift card. Just scan the QR code or click the link in the description and it's all yours.
Number 10. All the Dutch angles, Battlefield Earth. Battlefield Earth is a wall-to-wall dud of a movie any way you slice it, but the most annoying thing about it, all those damn Dutch angles. Almost every shot in the film is a Dutch angle. That is to say, almost every shot is tilted to one side and proves supremely distracting throughout the 2-hour runtime. Apparently, this was entirely at the behest of director Roger Christian, who, despite pushback from cinematographer Giles Nugent, insisted on Dutching the whole movie, reportedly in an attempt to approximate a comic book aesthetic. And yet there is another practical reason which allegedly dictated the decision to Dutch the movie, to cover up the fact that the 9 feet tall alien Cyclos were actually very far from that height, even with John Travolta and his alien co-stars wearing lifts in their shoes. Tilting the camera to one side made it tougher for audiences to keep track of the height discrepancy, or not, between the Cyclos and the human characters. If every shot in the movie was kept level, it'd be much easier to discern that the Cyclos aren't as tall as billed. Number 9. Frank's old man beating The Irishman. And for a movie of almost entirely inverse quality now, we have Martin Scorsese's masterful The Irishman. As superb as the epic crime drama can be, it's consistently duked for a single unfortunate scene in which a 30-something Frank Sheeran unconvincingly beats a shopkeeper up for shoving his daughter. A big fuss was made pre-release about the movie's digital de-aging technology, which is used throughout the film to have De Niro, Al Pacino, and Joe Pesci play decades younger versions of themselves. For the most part, it works incredibly well, but there's no denying how the delusion breaks down completely in this scene, even if the problem is often incorrectly ascribed to bad CGI. In reality, the real issue is that Scorsese opted to have De Niro perform all of the de-age scenes himself, rather than use a double for the sequences involving a markedly younger Frank. As such, it's clear we're looking at a 70-something man quite limply pretending to assault someone, rather than an individual at their physical peak brutally beating them. This could have been mitigated fairly easily by using a body double, especially as the shot is filmed relatively wide and digitally superimposing De Niro's face onto the double would have been quite simple. Had Scorsese adopted this approach, he could have avoided this scene becoming a rather obnoxious out-of-context meme online. Number 8. The Pink Blood, Dawn of the Dead. George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead arguably remains the greatest zombie movie of all time, no matter its rough technical edges. Many often point to how silly the film's blood looks, with its strangely pink hue not even remotely resembling actual human blood, though it's been stated that Romero felt the blood contributed to a heightened comic booky style. It was absolutely in no way intentional. As revealed by effects maestro Tom Savini himself, it was simply down to Savini's own inexperience, given that this was only his second movie working as a special effects artist. Savini used fake blood which, in his own words, photographed like melted crayons, despite looking just fine in the bottle. With Savini still being a novice makeup artist in the pre-internet days, he didn't exactly have a huge pool of resources to draw from. However, by the time he worked on his next movie, 1980's Friday the 13th, Oscar-winning makeup artist Dick Smith kindly gave Savini his formula for fake blood, corn syrup mixed with yellow and red food coloring, and things have been just fine ever since. Though Dawn of the Dead's pink blood absolutely has its defenders, it's a clear reason why Savini never used it again. Most people rightfully think it looks horrible. Number 7. Why Lando Wears Han's Clothes, The Empire Strikes Back. something that's mystified and irritated Star Wars fans for almost 45 years now. Why the hell does Lando Calrissian wear Han Solo's clothes on board the Millennium Falcon at the end of The Empire Strikes Back? It's enough of an infuriating mystery that even Family Guy made a crack about the inexplicable costume change. So what's the actual reason for Lando changing out of his fancy duds and donning Han's distinctive beige shirt and black waistcoat? In an interview with Billy D. Williams at the 2011 New Orleans Comic Con, the host revealed that the movie's costume designer, John Mollo, was the one who made this decision, seemingly without even considering that fans might ever question it. Since then, the popular fan explanation for this bizarre costume change is that the shirt-waistcoat combination is actually the standard issue uniform of the Corellian Corps, of which Han and Lando were both members. Basically, we're wrong to think of the ensemble as belonging exclusively to Han, when they're actually a widely worn outfit. Simple. Number 6. The hideous animalities, Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Mortal Kombat Annihilation is a largely terrible movie, but one which saves the worst for last, climaxing with an eyesore of a final between Liu Kang and Shao Kahn, who have used their animalities to transform into a giant dragon and giant hydra respectively. The result is an abject car crash of horrendous CGI that even in 1997 was a pure laughingstock, ending the film on a fittingly disastrous note. And though you might simply put it down to budgetary constraints or a filmmaker unfamiliar with complex VFX, the rabbit hole actually goes a little deeper than that. In a 2017 interview, producer Lawrence Kasanoff revealed that the final version of the movie isn't quite so final. There was supposed to be an entire second pass of visual effects, post-production, editing, but New Line said, you know what, it's testing so well, it doesn't f***ing matter, it's gonna be a hit. This was expanded upon in 2021 by film historian Brad Henderson, who tweeted that the released version of Mortal Kombat Annihilation is effectively a work print, an in-progress cut never intended for public consumption. All the poor VFX were placeholders which were supposed to be spruced up before release, but after it test screened well even with the dodgy effects, the studio decided to forego any extra CGI work. And so the appalling animalities aren't at all the result of a VFX company in over their heads or a film struggling under time or budgetary constraints. It was because of boneheaded studio executives cutting corners to bring the film in under budget. Number 5. Guile and Bison's clunky fight, Street Fighter. From one video game movie finale to another now, we have 1994's original live-action Street Fighter, which gets a lot of crap for most every aspect of its production, save for the late great Raul Julia's performance as M. Bison, of course. One of the film's many oft-cited criticisms is the poor quality of the action sequences, especially the visual cluster headache of a final battle between Bison and Guile. The final fight in Bison's base is infuriatingly chaotic, and largely consists of the pair stiffly kicking and punching one another, while edited into a choppy, scarcely comprehensible mess in a feckless attempt to make it seem more exciting. There's a weirdly robotic, mechanical feel to most of the fight, but that isn't down purely to bad fight choreography and limp technical filmmaking. A big part of the problem, tragically, is that Raul Julia was suffering from terminal stomach cancer throughout production, severely limiting his physicality while shooting fight scenes, and in turn forcing director Stephen E. D'Souza to awkwardly cut around the cardboard stiff fighting. All in all, it's a bad situation and far from the worst thing about Street Fighter, but at least lends crucial context to why that climactic fight looks so excessively rough. Number 4. The janky god effects, Star Trek V: The Final Frontier. Star Trek V: The Final Frontier is without question the worst of all the Trek movies for many reasons, and though it boldly introduces a villain, Cyborg, who pursues God, the resulting presentation of God is an abject mess. Late in the film, Cyborg, Kirk, and the Enterprise crew encounter an entity posing as God, which ends up amounting to little more than the giant face of a bearded man projected in front of the cast. The reason for this weirdly cheap-looking approach was that Industrial Light and Magic, who provided the VFX for the prior 3 Trek movies, were too busy working on Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade and Ghostbusters 2 to commit to the movie. As a result, the production had to look elsewhere, ultimately settling on Brand Furren's effect company Associates and Furren, who due to the film's locked-in release date, had roughly half the time that ILM did to deliver VFX work on the previous pictures. With time running out and the budget ballooning, complete VFX shots were aggressively cut, including an intended God Blob effect, which was switched out for the considerably simpler shot of Murdoch's face surrounded by smoke and lights. Number 3. The corny sex scene, Top Gun. Though Top Gun is a film that many embrace for its prevailing corniness and latent homoeroticism, the sex scene between Maverick and Charlie is just one step too cringeworthy. The soft blue lighting, the cheesy Berlin song, and the patent lack of chemistry between Cruise and McGillis makes it all decidedly less sexy than the iconic volleyball scene between the boys. But the sex scene wasn't even part of the original script, nor was it in the first cut of the movie. However, after test audiences rather questionably called the film too gay, the scene was added in reshoots in an attempt to spice up the romance between Maverick and Charlie. And because reshoots took place many months after principal photography wrapped, McGillis had already grown her hair out and coloured it brown for another film, Made in Heaven. So the overwrought silhouetted lighting was less a mood choice than an attempt to obscure the colour of her hair. To their credit, it worked in that sense. Number 2. The lackluster cinematography, The Matrix Resurrections. The Matrix Resurrections was in some respects a bold swing and a miss for Lana Wachowski, a left-field attempt to do something different, albeit one that categorically felt lesser than its 3 predecessors. This was largely due to the generally underwhelming fight choreography, a result of the original trilogy's choreographer, Hong Kong martial arts legend Yuen Wu-ping, not returning, and some strangely poor cinematography. The cutting-edge visuals of the original film in particular were replaced here with an excessively digital look that felt less like a mega-budget tentpole than an ambitious Netflix original. This was especially apparent during the movie's many slow-motion sequences, which lacked the visual finesse of the previous films, their overly smooth shutter speed lacking the grittier filmic look of what came before. However, there's one big reason why The Matrix Resurrection cinematography is so disappointing. Even though previous cinematographer Bill Pope opted not to return, he was replaced with the extremely skilled 2-time Oscar winner John Toll. So on paper, there seemingly wasn't much to worry about. However, mere weeks into shooting, Toll was forced to suddenly exit the production due to a family health issue, with Wachowski's longtime camera operator Daniela Massachesi then being drafted in to take his place. Though clearly a talented camera operator, Massachesi had only sparse cinematography credits on lower-budget dramas and comedies, and as such, his appointment as cinematographer for the bulk of the blockbuster shoot was a massive risk, and one which ultimately didn't pay off. It's certainly not fair to criticize Massachesi for grabbing the offer of a lifetime and evidently trying his best. But the production clearly needed to bring a seasoned DP into the fold with experience working on VFX-heavy productions. Number 1. The awful final battle, Black Panther. Though Black Panther was widely acclaimed upon release, the single most consistent criticism regards the garishly digital final fight between T'Challa and Killmonger, which looks less like it came from a $200 million movie and more like a PS3 game cutscene. At the time of Black Panther's release, many freely slung criticism at the VFX artists who worked on the film. Though in our more enlightened present, it's clear that the visually hideous final battle was really Marvel Studios' own doing. One of the film's VFX artists, Todd Sheridan Perry, spoke out about what went wrong, insisting that the blame falls squarely on the shoulders of studios that set a release date and then work backward from there. Perry also revealed that T'Challa Killmonger fight was compromised by Marvel's late-game decision to beef up the above-ground Wakanda battle taking place at the same time. Producers wanted the up-top fight to feel more epic and incorporate more elements, and so this ended up taking priority over the Vibranium mine battle. Moreover, even once Marvel realized that Perry's VFX company, Method Studio, had too much work on their plate and decided to have another VFX studio, DNEG, work on Black Panther, the actual act of packaging up the fight's data and sending it over to DNEG was massively time-consuming. As such, DNEG had limited time to complete the fight, ensuring that the majority of its shots weren't polished. Had Marvel Studios been willing to delay the release date by a few months, this sequence likely would have looked much better and avoided an avalanche of vocal criticism.